Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. In Durham, the A19 northbound has one of two lanes closed due to a collision between the junctions with the A179 and the A181, causing a 10-minute delay. Normal traffic is expected to resume by 6:45. In Surrey, the M25 clockwise exit slip at junction 11 has a broken down vehicle, with one lane closed. Conditions are anticipated between 5:45 and 6 this evening. In Staffordshire, a collision on the M6 northbound between junction 14 and junction 15 closes one of four lanes, delaying drivers 10 minutes. Expected to clear by 8:09 tonight. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps four, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, get this, ladies and gents, are you sitting down? Small boat crossings have passed 10,000 this year. That number, in case you're wondering, is 40% up on the same point this time last year. But it's all right, because the Labour Party have got a white paper en route. But of course, that is focusing mainly on legal migration. What do you think now? Are the Labour Party out of ideas when it comes to the absolute shambles that is that border? And speaking of shambles, the NHS is also in a mess. So let me ask you a simple question. Do you think that technology is the answer? And Rachel Reeves has budgeted for public sector pay rises of about 2.8%, but the peer review bodies are giving their requests and it seems that they'll be asking for about 4%. So you tell me, how is that circle going to get squared? We've got all of that and more keeping me company in my panel tonight. The chairman of Reform UK, Zia Youssef, alongside him, Labour MP Mike Tapp. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Good evening. Your headlines from the GB Newsroom. The President of the EU Council and the Portuguese Prime Minister have said there's no indication that a cyber attack caused a massive power cut that plunged Spain and Portugal into chaos, with trains halted, traffic lights out and millions cut off from Wi-Fi, 5G and card payments. Portugal's grid operator said that extreme temperature variations had produced a rare atmospheric phenomenon that caused the cuts. Spain's energy operator Red Eléctrica estimated it could take between 6 to 10 hours to restore power in the country, while Portugal believes it could take up to a week for normal services to resume. In other news, Donald Trump has demanded a permanent ceasefire in Ukraine after Vladimir Putin announced a 3-day pause in fighting ahead of Russia's Victory Day celebrations next week. The ceasefire will run from midnight on the 7th of May to midnight on the 10th of May, with Russian forces told to halt all military action. But Moscow has warned it will respond if Ukraine breaches the truce. Now, the number of migrants crossing the Channel in small boats has now passed 10,000 this year, weeks earlier than last year, in a blow to Sir Keir Starmer's pledge to smash the gangs. 450 migrants in 8 small boats made the crossing today, taking the total for the year so far to more than 10,300. Shadow Minister Chris Philp told GB News 2025 is the worst year in history for illegal Channel crossings. He blamed Labour's decision to scrap the Rwanda scheme, saying the numbers are worse than ever. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's spokesman said there are no quick fixes to illegal migration. He said, "We were left with a broken asylum system." A 1-year-old girl has died after a crash on a Welsh campsite. North Wales Police said it received a 999 call this morning to report a collision involving the girl and a vehicle on the Brydon Glock caravan and camping park. The child sadly died in hospital this afternoon, despite best efforts by all involved. A former aide to Health Secretary Wes Streeting has been spared jail after exposing himself to a teenage girl and following her. 33-year-old Samuel Gould, who was also a counsellor in Redbridge, was seen by the 13-year-old girl masturbating in his parked car in Romford on March the 8th. Prosecutors say Gould then followed the girl, who hid and knocked on nearby flats to try and get help. Gould was sentenced to 22 weeks imprisonment, suspended for 2 years. And the BBC must act faster when staff cross the line. That's the verdict of a major workplace review. Commissioned after the Hugh Edwards scandal, the review stopped short of calling the culture toxic, but says the broadcaster must intervene earlier and set clearer standards. It also reveals the BBC didn't do enough when issues were raised about figures like Tim Westwood and Russell Brand, and calls for urgent reforms to prevent the abuse of power. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Michelle.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that. What awful news, isn't it? That little girl that we've just been hearing about, that campsite in Wales, absolutely unimaginable. The very last thing that you would want to happen when you're going off with your family into a relaxed, safe environment. Absolutely devastating. So, of course, my thoughts are with that little girl's family. I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. We're with you until 7 o'clock tonight, alongside with the chairman of Reform UK, Z Youssef, and a new face to this show. You do GB News, but never this programme, so welcome the Labour MP for Dover and Deal, Mike Tapp. Good evening to you both. Now, you know the drill, don't you, on Dewbs & Co. It's not just about us in the studio, it's very much about you at home as well. So tell me, what is on your mind tonight? Join the conversation in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. So how down are you with technology? Are you one of those people that you know exactly what you are doing? The reason I'm asking is because when it comes to the NHS, we all know, don't we, is in a little bit of a pickle. The answer there, people are really kind of pinning their hopes on this as one of the things that's really going to change the future when it comes to the NHS, and that is the app. Do you use it? Are you someone that actually uses it? I've got to confess, I don't. Anyway, now revamping this app has apparently slashed 1.5 million missed appointments, which has apparently saved a whopping £622 million. So, Mike Tapp, then, is this going to be the future then for the NHS? More digital-focused technology?
Yeah, I think it's positive. I think that's definitely the way that we need to go. There's a lot out there, including AI and apps that we can harness to bring down waiting times and make it a more efficient service. But it's not the complete answer, and we have to understand, when you're on the doors, you have to meet people who, aren't using the internet and apps. So there has to be that analog service as well, I suppose, for people that aren't using those tools. But in general, it's a very positive approach, and bringing down waiting times and waiting lists is what we need to see, and we already are, of course.
And do you trust that the data is in safe hands? If people do use this app, their data is safe with whoever it is that's holding that?
Yeah, and look, that's always going to be the debate going forward around all use of technology, isn't it? It's to ensure that we've got the right security underpinning that. And, I do have faith that the NHS will ensure that they do have the right security there. But, of course, we've got to be aware of hackers with the threat from Russia, etc. So that is a case of making sure it's coded right as well, above my sort of pay scale in terms of my technological knowledge. But, yes, that is very important.
What do you think? I am intrigued to know, do you use the NHS app? I do not. I don't know why I don't, actually, but I've chosen not to. Zia Youssef, is technology the answer? Your background, tech entrepreneur?
Yeah, look, I built a technology company. I think technology can add a lot of value, including the NHS, where my parents are given 50 years of service between them. So, look, I think technology has an important role to play. If people are into using apps, then I think that's great. But a lot of this discussion, what worries me a bit about it is that it's skirting around the fundamental issue, which is that the NHS is totally broken. It's been broken because health, like housing, like schools, like infrastructure generally, is a supply and a demand problem. And the sheer levels of demand for the NHS, app or no app, are totally out of control. North of 7.2 million people have registered with GPs over the last 10 years who are not born in the United Kingdom. We have a situation where tens of thousands of people now every year have to wait more than 3 days in accident and emergency. I mean, that is a third world statistic. And yet we're talking about the United Kingdom. And, the Labour Party have been spending a lot of time boasting about a reduction in the size of the waiting list. And yes, it's good that the waiting list is going down and up. That is true. But if you look at the rate of progress, they're cutting the waiting list by about 25,000 a month. At the current speed, with 7.6 million people on that waiting list, it's going to take more than 25 years, Michelle, to get through that waiting list. So this is bringing a super soaker to a forest fire. And Labour is continuing to allow small boats and illegal migrants, mainly young men, to come here at a rate unprecedented in this country's history, and by their own figures are going to bring between 300 and 500,000 in terms of net legal migration every year. That is why our NHS is buckling, and it isn't going to change under this Labour government.
And worry not, by the way. I will bring you some of those stats when it comes to migration. We'll get into that a bit later on in the programme. Don't worry about that, and I hope you're sitting down for it. But is that what you're doing? You're bringing a super soaker to a forest fire?
I'm quite astounded, actually, that I've come in here to talk about a really positive app. I'm quite shocked at how political you can make that. And look, you're a business owner. Once you go in and you start fixing problems that you've inherited from any business, whether it's, private or public, because that's how these need to be run, you've got to first fix the problem. And then, of course, it speeds up. But we've spent, we've had the Darzi report, etc., come in, which is now informing the way forward. And Wes Streeting's been really radical getting rid of NHS England. We've got to say also on the race of people using it, which is quite surprisingly been raised. Of course, many of the people...
Nothing to do with race. Mike, with respect, nobody has mentioned race at all.
Many of the people working in the NHS are migrants themselves, and that's extremely valuable. But, of course, we need to ensure that we're getting jobs for British workers too in the NHS.
So he didn't mention race. He was talking about volume.
Race is probably the wrong word, but you're talking about immigrants.
Don't you think people who have paid their taxes in this country their whole lives should have priority access to the NHS?
Right, and another point that I have to make is that having priority access for hard-working people is exactly what the Labour Party do and are doing and will continue to do. And we know that Reform have said that there's risk of privatisation, so it's not free at the
That's
point
not
of
true,
use,
Mike.
which goes well and truly against British values.
With respect, you can keep saying it. It gets no more true. That is just completely false.
Well, the clips and the sound bites
we have been crystal clear. You talk about clips. Let's talk about clips. The Labour, whoever runs it, probably wasn't you who put this up on Twitter. Somebody clipped Nigel our leader, talking in a speech, describing what you had claimed he was saying, which was false, that he was going to charge some £15,000 for a procedure.
He said that
and he
nothing
said
is off
that,
the table
and he
when it
was
comes to
saying that,
privatising.
and he was saying that to describe what you had said in one of your leaflets, and your social media team, Labour's social media team, clipped that and then claimed that it was the authentic message that Nigel was delivering, and he was going to charge that. Mike, are you going to sit? Are you going to apologise for that? Because that was so misleading. It was actually one of the most extraordinary things. It was one of the most extraordinary. People watching this will know what I'm talking about. So, well, I'm telling you now. Will you apologise? Do you think it is reasonable to clip somebody who is describing what you had claimed that he had said falsely, and then claiming that that was what he said?
OK, what I will say is Nigel Farage has said very clearly that nothing is off the table, and he'd look to go to an insurance-based system. Now,
Nigel has said more times than I can remember. All I'll say is Nigel said more times than I can remember, Mike, that the NHS will always be free to use under a Reform government, under his Prime Ministership.
The public must realise what's being said, because Nigel Farage and the Reform Party are a threat to the NHS and to British values, and it's really important that they realise that, because, look, the community I come from, particularly in Dover, there's so many people who are on these long waiting lists who, you know, they're hard-working people. We've come into government. We've already got rid of NHS England. We're restructuring, we're reforming, we're getting rid of the wastage, and we're cutting those waiting times. It's only going to get better, and we'll take it back to what the NHS was under the last...
and if they wait 25 years, then the NHS backlog will get cleared under the current track record. Under your track record, you are clearing 25,000 per month. There are 7.6 million on the NHS waiting list, and by your own numbers, you're going to bring 300 to 500,000 people here each year legally, and the small boat crossings year to date, as you just heard on that news bulletin, are at all-time highs.
Reform have no answers to this, other than to threaten the very existence of the NHS.
Right, so hold on a second. So a couple of points. So first things first, if we all agree that actually the NHS is in an absolute mess, and we all agree that is a starting point, it is, point one.
Absolutely.
Why would you look at that and say, actually, like, because what you're saying, that Reform are saying, you know, nothing's off the table. Many people would actually think that is a sensible approach. If you've got this massive beast that is monumentally broken, why would you, if you're trying to reshape that, take anything off the table when you're just evaluating future solutions?
An insurance-based system should be well and truly off the table, because people will miss out on healthcare, and that's not fair on hard-working people. The NHS is fundamental to what this country stands for.
Right, so let's get a clear response. Are you proposing an insurance-based solution for the NHS?
It's not off the table,
Michelle, we have been crystal clear. We will be crystal clear. We are not moving to an insurance model. We are going to ensure that the NHS remains free to use for everybody in this country. But, and I will keep saying this, we can talk about apps and we can talk about these things all we want. So long as the population is growing 300,000 to 500,000 per year from legal migrants, and you have tens of thousands, probably soon hundreds of thousands a year under your government of people coming here illegally, you are going to have an overwhelm of existing resource in the NHS.
I completely agree that we've got to stop.
So if you agree, so do you agree, Mike, that the NHS, our health service, ultimately supply and demand are issues that need to be dealt with? Do you agree with that statement?
Look, we're in the same place.
It's a yes or no question. Do you agree?
We're in exactly the same place when it comes to the fact that illegal migration is far too high, and that needs to come down.
Well, we're not, because Labour are in government, and we've just had record small boat crossings.
We're going to come on to the small boats. Worry not, ladies and gents. Let me ask you a very quick question, as brief as you can. You've just said to me then, Michelle, we're just getting started.
Yes.
So if what you're saying to the viewers is trust Labour, we're just getting started, we're going to sort the NHS right out, why haven't you done that in Wales then, where you've had control of the NHS for decades?
Well, look, we've come into government across the United Kingdom, and the NHS that we've inherited is a complete...
No, but you haven't inherited the NHS in Wales. You've had ownership of it.
But you're already
for
seeing
25
improvements,
years.
and we only have to go back to when Labour were last in government and how fantastic the NHS was.
My question is, why isn't Wales a beacon? Why isn't Wales, like, put up on all these pedestals? If what Labour are going to achieve is going to be so fantastical, why isn't Welsh NHS up there on a platform where everyone literally going, wow, look at how amazing this is? If Labour are going to deliver...
Do you remember when Tony Blair went on Question Time, and one of the persons in the audience was complaining that they had to have their appointment within 48 hours? That's what we're going to get this back to. We're going to get back quick appointments, fast treatment, and it's saving lives. And already we're saving lives.
You can decide at home what you think to that. And if you are in Wales, because of course Labour, I'm repeating the point here, Labour have had ownership of the NHS there for about 2.5 decades, to be precise. How is it for you? Do you sit there and go, it's absolutely amazing and it's working for me? And what do you think about these claims then about what reform he's alleging reform will do? Reform are saying they won't do that. What do you think to it all? Get in touch and let me know. After the break, let's talk public sector pay, shall we? Because this might be a thorn in the side as well when it comes to the NHS. I'll see you in 2.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
People sometimes think if someone is homeless, they're not trying for work, I mean, you clearly have been.
Yes,
but just not getting enough to actually be able
That's
to
the thing.
fund lots of expenses.
When you're self-employed, anyone who's self-employed will understand me that it's it's got its moments of being busy and quieter.
And have you experienced that stigma of being homeless, not having anywhere to call home?
Yes, I definitely have. I felt it through losing friends. I've realised who my true people are, I would say. It's crazy how humanity still exists. More recently than not, I put a post out saying I didn't have anywhere to go one of the nights, and I was in the council the next day and I needed to be in Windsor because the council or nearby, and a couple of people reached out that I didn't even know, a couple, and I stayed at theirs, and they even gave me a warm meal. So humanity does exist, and but where's my friends in all this, you know?
Yeah.
A few friends have stepped up a little bit more now and realised this is, become a problem. When they've seen me and actually spoke to me properly and realised this is what I'm going through, they've helped me and let me stay on the sofa or, but it's all temporary.
Just briefly, what about charities in all of this? Are they able to help?
Crisis and Shelter, I've just gone around in circles with. I haven't got any direct help so much. Not been able to get through to anyone. I've wrote to them, I've emailed them, I've Instagrammed them. But the only charity that has helped me, and it's a kind of an unusual one, is Dogs Trust.
Oh, right.
Because I walk dogs, I've been in contact with them to help the homeless dogs get rehomed. I was supporting them, and then all of a sudden they've pulled me in and said, look, you should come down to the Dewberry Dogs Trust in Berkshire. We can support you. We have this together through homelessness.
The People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. Lots of you getting in touch and telling me that you do like that NHS app, by the way. I clearly need to move with the times then, don't I? Look, I've got Zia Youssef and Mike Tapp alongside me. We've just been talking about the NHS. Well, one of the key factors in the NHS is how much we spend on salaries. We'll all be familiar with the seemingly ongoing strikes that we've all endured. Well, now, I found this quite interesting because Chancellor Rachel Reeves, she seems to have budgeted about 2.8% when it comes to public sector pay rises. Now, the independent pay review bodies are making suggestions which look likely that people will want up to a 4% pay rise. That was teachers. And when it comes to NHS workers, about 3% there or thereabouts. Now, some people, Mike Tapp, are saying that what's happened is that Labour basically rolled over and gave in to the union. So now you've set a rod for your own back, have you?
Not at all. We needed to get well, particularly doctors into work to save lives. Nurses are very much the best of British, as are teachers. You know, they are what I call true patriots. They're not earning big money, but they're working hard to educate our kids and to save lives. So they do deserve to be paid well. But of course, there is limited budget. We don't have, you know, the largest economy given what we've inherited. So there is a limit to what we can do. But it's important going forward that we continue to engage and talk to those people, unlike the Conservatives who just blanked them and then we had mass strikes.
I remember back to August, and this tweet that I'm about to share with you, it always sticks in my mind when we talk about public sector pay and unions. This was a tweet that ASLEF, the union there, they put out, and they said, we've received a pay offer from the Department of Transport in respect of our national dispute. It's a 3-year pay deal at 5%, 4.75% and 4.5%. But this is the key word that always jumps out at me, with no strings. I will always keep coming back to that when I think to these negotiations, because it's not really a negotiation if one side just says, do you know what, you can have whatever you want, quote, with no strings. Is it?
No, it isn't. And clearly Labour, given their main funding source are unions, are always going to be in hock to the unions. But look, it's also quite difficult to make a compelling case as to why NHS nurses and doctors don't deserve to be paid more. I mean, the reality is they set their alarms in the morning, they get up and they go and do really meaningful work that is really important to many people in this country, Michelle, and we need more. By the way, another appalling piece of legislation is the fact that only 9,000, we can only have 9,000 homegrown doctors every year in this country, which is one reason why we have to import so many doctors from abroad. But the reality is this government still is spending, like the Tories, billions upon billions of pounds on illegal migrants, on asylum hotels. They have the money for that. They're willing to spend 15, well, they cut it a little bit now, but still it's going to be north of 12, 13 billion pounds in foreign aid. There are so many people in this country who are struggling to make ends meet, and that's where our focus has to be. So, look, yes, I think Labour are totally in hock to the unions, but I'm not going to sit here and say nurse. My mum's a nurse. You know, my mum, as actually Mike said, you know, I used to tell her when I was a kid, I said, why didn't you ask for a pay rise? And she said, oh, well, I'd much rather see they spent the money on more medicines, you know, and more stuff. And by the way, that's not what the money would get spent on. It would get spent on NHS administrators on big 6-figure salaries. So, yes, the NHS are in hock to the unions, but the fundamental issue is that this country is spending far too much money on people who have contributed nothing to the country.
As regular viewers will know, also my mum and my sister are both NHS nurses, so huge respect to them as well from me. But the situation then that we're in, because this isn't just about nurses, this is teachers, this is every single public sector worker. So are you saying, like you're saying about we spend all this money on foreign aid and whatever, so what is your policy when it comes to this? Would you just be giving the independent peer review bodies whatever they ask for, or what?
No, look, our policy, Reform's view would be we want to pay for performance. You know, and so if people are delivering, then people deserve to be paid. We need to massively reduce the size of the civil service. The size of the civil service in terms of payroll has increased by about 50%. That's what payroll has increased by over the last decade. Do people feel like call the DVLA? How long does it take you to get an answer? Try getting hold of HMRC when they're fining you all the time. You hear the stories all of the time. They're people being fined, whether they're individuals or whether they're small business owners, and they can't get through. Most of them, Michelle, by the way, are working from home, or as we call it, not working from home. So, no, we're not just going to carte blanche give unions whatever they want. Everything has to be on a case-by-case basis. We need to massively reduce the size of, as I said, particularly the civil service and all of these bureaucratic agencies. And we need to, you know, one of the things Nigel will do as Prime Minister is say, if you are funded by the taxpayer, if your job is paid for at the taxpayer's expense, then, you know, my mum's a nurse, she doesn't get to work from home. Bricklayers don't get to work from home. So you should not be allowed to work from home. You need to go into the office. Is that a policy you'd agree with? That all civil servants, etc., in the office? Well, the civil service, I think, has become too large. And look, I come from a background of delivery and getting things done, from the military to counter-terror work. There was no time for pondering and bureaucracy and endless reviews and reports. It's about getting it done. And look, if some of the
civil service, or quangos particularly, are in the way of that, then that needs to be dealt with. And we've seen Wes Streeting do that already very quickly. And I hope to see that across all departments where appropriate. And that's for ministers to make those decisions. On working from home, I think sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's my view on it. And it's down to good managers and bosses to work that out. Who are your team? What are they like work-wise? Will they thrive with a more flexible setup, or will they not? And then they need to make their own decisions.
So do you think we're heading for more strikes this year?
I very much hope not. One thing I will say is I get slightly wound up when unions are passing motions on Palestine. And actually, they should be talking about their workers and their pay so that those debates don't lose credibility. So that's something that I think needs to end, and they actually stick to their jobs of getting better rights for their workers.
There's a lot of stupidity going on as well when it comes to the unions on this whole trans debate. And not just the unions, by the way. I can't help but notice, I know I'm going off topic now, everyone, but, you know, it's my pet subject. I can't help but notice how many people feel so empowered and emboldened when it comes to all these Supreme Court stuff. Actually, they're saying that they're not even going to respect that recent ruling when it comes to the For Women Scotland verdict. But you know what? I digress. Look, coming up after the break, it's a topic that these two really want to get into, so let's do it, shall we? Small Burke Crossing. Sit yourself down, ladies and gents, because you will not believe the number that we have currently reached. It is a shambles.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst the UK is going to be increasingly dry and sunny this week, parts of the Mediterranean are actually going to be slightly damper. Some showers to watch out for across parts of Turkey, and a brisk breeze running through the Aegean Sea will make it feel quite fresh for those Greek islands. A few showers in between the sunshine for parts of Italy, France and Spain as well, but it's parts of Portugal and down towards Madeira that are going to see some of the most unsettled conditions, some longer spells of rain and again some quite strong winds around, but away from there there'll still be some sunshine elsewhere.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M898 southbound is partially blocked after Erskine Bridge due to a broken down vehicle. In Durham, the A19 northbound has a collision between junctions with the A179 and the A181, closing one lane and causing 10-minute delays. The M6 northbound in Warwickshire has one lane closed. Traffic is expected to normalise by 7:15 this evening. Resurfacing works continue westbound on the M4 at junction 37 Pyle, closing the entry slip and hard shoulder. The M25 in Surrey has a broken down vehicle on the clockwise exit slip at junction 11, closing one lane. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. till 7. Alongside me, the Chairman of Reform UK's Yousaf and the Labour MP for Dover and Deal, Mike Tapp. Paul, one of the viewers has said, Michelle, I live in Wales and the NHS is diabolical in his mind compared to England, he says. And I quote, it's for all sorts of reasons, but he reckons it stems from the policies and priorities of the useless, he says, Labour government in the Parliament there. This is the point that I'm not getting. And very briefly, if Labour are going to be so great at fixing the NHS, why isn't, and I'll try and return to it, why isn't the Welsh NHS like the beacon of all things brilliance in healthcare?
I mean, look, my understanding of the Welsh NHS is minimal, but I will say that we had the finest healthcare system in the world under the last Labour government, and we will return to that. And we're already seeing massive progress.
Yeah, but that doesn't answer the
just 9
question,
months.
respectfully. I don't think we're going to get an answer, so I shall move on. Small boats, I told you, are you sitting down, everybody? Because you won't actually believe the figure now. Do you know, 10,000 people have crossed the channel so far this year alone. We are currently 40% higher right now than we were the same point this time last year. Absolute chaotic shambles, out of control, if you ask me. Let's listen to Keir Starmer.
So on immigration, 10,000 people have arrived today on your watch from across on the small boats. Where are they all going to live? Will they be living in rented homes next door to GB News viewers?
This is a serious problem. The last government lost control of our borders, and it falls to us now to clear up that mess. I'm absolutely convinced that we have to take down the gangs that are running the vile trade of putting people into boats in the first place. That's why we're passing the Borders Bill, which will give our law enforcement much greater powers. The Conservatives voted against that bill, if you can believe it. That is why we're also processing claims where people shouldn't be in this country. They should be removed, and we've removed 24,000 since we've been in government. That's the highest for nearly 10 years. That's the right thing to do.
Well, I can tell you now, I dispute that 24,000 figure. I'll tell you that for free. But anyway, what on earth are you guys playing at, Mike Tapp?
Well, what we've got to appreciate... So firstly, I have to say, I'm as frustrated by this as any of the viewers. I really am, and I believe that Keir Starmer is too, and we've made a commitment to bring about secure borders. But we have to realise that we have inherited open borders, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I think an example of that is the fact that we are bringing in counter-terror powers, and they will make a big impact. But they're still going through our democratic system now. We're 9 months in, they're still going through Parliament because of the nature of our democracy. Now, when they're in, now, having worked against criminal gangs in the past and in a counter-terror role, I've seen firsthand the difference that those counter-terror powers can make. We've also started to rebuild those relationships internationally, and I think the most important there is probably the French, and they are changing their own laws now, and that's still going through their parliament to tackle the boats in small waters, because quite shockingly that wasn't happening before. But there is more to come, and nothing is off the table. But we are 9 months in, we've got the system working again, so that processing is starting to speed up in the Home Office, which has led to record removals. And of course, it's only going to get better from here, but worse for the smuggling gangs.
Your party, I would put to you, you're misleading the public when you talk about these record deportations. Tell me what you mean. When you think you've achieved record deportations, what are you talking about?
Well, it's removals and deportations, and the difference between that is some of them are taken in handcuffs and some aren't. But the fact is they shouldn't be here, so they're leaving. Yeah, but whether it's deportation or removal...
But Mike, with respect, you did tweet. You tweeted multiple times, you used the phrase record deportations, which include all of those numbers. It's not true.
Because the public don't care whether they're removed in handcuffs or not. They just care.
Well, they care if it's record deportations, which it isn't. As your Prime Minister actually just said there, your leader, Keir Starmer, literally said the highest number in 10 years. And Well, you said, so if you the word deportation, that 24,000 number, that includes, by the way, only a small minority of those are actually what you call enforced removals, which is the ones that you're talking about in handcuffs. But a significant percentage of, a third of those, Mike, a third of that 24,000 that you guys keep boasting about and celebrating, a third of those are by the Home Office's own admission, and you can go and look at BBC Verify where they actually do this analysis, are individuals where the government played no role, and in most cases, actually, the government had no idea about them at all. Not to say nothing of the fact that far more than 24,000, Mike, far more than that 24,000 that you're celebrating that you've deported as Labour, have arrived in this country via small boat across the Channel since Keir Starmer came to power. So the net number of illegal migration into this country has gone up under Keir Starmer. And yes, the Tories totally lost control of our borders. Right. You are a drunk driver that has replaced them and made it you have made it infinitely worse. And actually, one of the things that is very frustrating, I think, for us at Reform, and I think a lot of people watching this, Mike, is that the Tories were so busy fighting amongst themselves that they never claimed they were solving this problem. Labour is making the problem worse and simultaneously claiming that they're solving it. And I think that's pernicious, and I think it's totally unbecoming of public office. I really do.
The problem we have here is the public don't care whether people are dragged onto a plane or they walk onto the plane.
That's very disingenuous. They might not care whether or not they're grabbed by the scruff of their neck, but they care if you're claiming credit.
If they shouldn't be here,
if you're
they are removed.
Mike Tapp, if you're claiming credit and saying that you guys have achieved 24,000 deportations, and actually the reality of it is that the majority of those are voluntary returns, in some cases, by the way, ladies and gents, you, me, the rest of the taxpayers, we've been paying these people up to £3,000 to leave. That is a massive, monumental policy difference, Mike, between whether or not someone is drag kicking and screaming on a plane versus, oh, hang on a second, I didn't realise that fella had gone, or, hang on a second, you want to go, my friend? There's £3,000. They are monumentally different things, and they show your competence or not in dealing with this issue. It's deeply misleading to keep quoting that figure.
Look, when we came into government...
But do you concede
we
that?
Had. No, absolutely
it is deeply misleading.
The problem is...
No, I'm not having that.
Right.
How can you not concede when you lot keep saying that you are deporting 24,000 people, and I've just put to you, and he's just put to you, that is not what's happening. Why can't you concede that that's misleading?
One of the issues we have is I'm trying to answer, but I'm not being allowed to.
Go on, then.
So the point is, we came into government with a completely open border and a system behind the scenes that wasn't working. There's no processing. So those removals are up 25% to what they were the same time last year. This doesn't happen overnight, and we're really clear about that. And when other parties, Reform being one of them, say that they'll fix this overnight, they won't. They're lying to the public. They're tricking them. They're using the flag to blindfold them. And I think that's actually anti-British.
Mike, with respect, you have... We're holding you to account. I'm holding you to account for the fact that you have been on Twitter a multitude of times in recent days claiming Labour have delivered, quote, record deportations. That is untrue. It is simply not true. As Keir Starmer, your leader and the Prime Minister of this country, just said on TV, everyone watching this programme just saw that, he said it's the highest number in about 10 years, comparing it, by the way, to the useless Tory government that basically had an open border policy. I want to say one other thing, though, Michelle, because this week there was an important announcement by Nigel, which is very connected to this. One of the reasons why people are risking their lives, literally risking their lives, tragically hundreds of people have lost their lives making that journey across the Channel, which is very dangerous, from France, which last I checked was not war-torn. Sure, there are some rough parts, but it is not a war zone, and millions of people from England go to France on holiday every single year. So they are not coming from war zones. Why are they doing it? It's because Britain, far from offering a deterrent, is offering a honeypot. There's a huge incentive to come here. Why? Because still, you can blame the Tories all you want. I mean, God knows they were awful on this. But Labour is making things infinitely worse. Sure. And what Reform are going to do, we're going to ensure that every single person, we're putting illegal immigrants in this country on notice. We are going to deport every single one of them within 5 years. Within 5 years. Within 5 years. We're going to have bilateral agreements with countries. We're going to make it the highest priority of the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office to get bilateral agreements with countries. There are countries, Mike, which are still getting hundreds of millions of pounds in aid at the behest of the British taxpayer, who are refusing to even take back the criminals who are here illegally languishing in our jails. That is totally unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. We have to leave the ECHR. You're never going to solve this problem so long as, you had that Kenyan man who is a convicted rapist who a judge blocked his deportation back to Kenya on the basis that because he had an alcohol problem, that might be an issue for him apparently back in Kenya. What matters is the human rights of the British people. You have to replace the ECHR with a British Bill of Rights. That is what reform are going to do. None of those things, Mike, are in the realm, in the universe of things that your Prime Minister is going to be willing to do. So long as that is true, we're going to continue. We're going to continue to get what we currently have, which is more people. You can give all the platitudes you want, Mike, but the reality is this: more people have crossed the English Channel illegally year to date than in any other year in this country's history, and that is an abomination. It is grossly unfair, and it's going to cost you dearly at the ballot box.
Like I said, the legislation that we're passing is still going through Parliament now.
Not to leave the ECHR.
When we look at things like the ECHR, it's a very blunt instrument. Trade deals will fall down. The Belfast Agreement, there's a lot being underpinned by the ECHR, and I don't think reform think about that. It's a blunt instrument. Again, they're trying to trick people into thinking they've got the answers, when actually, when you dig deeper, it all falls down. There's no returns agreements in place. There's nowhere some of these people can't be deported. Of course, we're working on that behind the scenes, but there's not a running commentary. We don't need to give a running commentary until we get things in place. And like I made very clear earlier, we want to...
So you are saying you will leave the ECHR and you will get bilateral agreements to mass deportation?
The ECHR, Article 3 and 8, do need to be looked at, and a lot of that is down to the interpretation of the judges. If you look at the way Denmark operate, where they stretch their domestic laws to ensure that it doesn't get in the way of deportations, I'd hope that we do look at that. But nothing's...
But you can do what we're planning to do, which is disapply those. Disapply.
We've got sensible answers, not gimmicks.
The government gets to actually make the laws, so you have to be willing to do that.
Let's talk about some of these sensible answers then, shall we, after the break. Just to put some pound, shilling and pence onto this, ladies and gents, for you. There's 10,000 people then that have arrived that route to the year to date. £410 million they're going to cost you, me, us, the taxpayers, over the next year. This is absolutely disgraceful. So let's talk about what are then the common sense answers to this in two.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It'll feel like summer over the next couple of days with lots of sunshine. Very warm for the end of April, and the winds will be light for most as well. High pressure is the reason why this chunky high dominating our weather patterns. We've had this weather front across northern Scotland. It's breaking up, but still providing some rain and drizzle across the Northern Isles through the nights, but tending to clear away from the mainland of Scotland. Generally, it's dry with lengthy clear skies. Bit of a breeze picking up along the south coast. Temperatures will dip down to single figures across parts of eastern England, in particular in rural spots, but many towns and cities holding in double figures. On to Tuesday, and basically sunny and really quite warm sums it up. As I said, there will be this breeze picking up initially on the south coast, Devon and Cornwall, getting quite gusty in the southwest at times, but elsewhere the wind's fairly light. Could be some early morning mist, but generally a sunnier day compared to today for Northern Ireland and much of southern and western Scotland. Still some thick cloud across Shetland, a little bit damp and drizzly here, particularly so in the morning, but even here I suspect that rain and drizzle will tend to fizzle through the day. Lots of sunshine then elsewhere, and with the help of that sunshine getting stronger and stronger, of course, at this time of year, we'll see those temperatures ticking up. A warmer feeling day, particularly where it's sunnier for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but quite widely will be over 20 degrees Celsius, and through central and eastern parts of England, southern Wales, into the mid-20s, perhaps 25 or 26 in and around the London area. Wednesday could be warmer still. Again, a bit of a breeze blowing through the channel, bit of cloud maybe across Shetland, but not as thick as tomorrow's. Should be a dry day pretty much everywhere, and warmer still with light winds, feeling really warm as well for the last day of April, 26, 27. Warmer again across the south on Thursday.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. Alongside me is Youssef and Mike Tapp. I've just been telling Mike in the break what I'd be up to if I was the Prime Minister of this country, but as I say to you all, luckily for you all, I'm not. Look, I want to talk about this issue. I was off on Friday, so I missed this story pop up, but so many of you have been getting in touch about it because we talk about just the sheer lunacy now, ladies and gents, of the channel crossings. One of the things that's really upset a lot of people, Youssef, is the information that came to light from Serco, who, of course, is a housing company that's got contracts to house these asylum seekers. It went onto their website, this whole list of places that they're looking for private rental accommodation. As a landlord, you'll be sitting there going, hang on a second, what a deal. 5-year contract, above market rent, maintenance costs and all the rest of it taken care of, utility bills paid, you name it. I mean, it's almost enough, ladies and gents, to make you want to get on a dinghy on your own, isn't it? But anyway, people are furious about this, Youssef.
It's so appalling. When I first saw it, I thought it was a parody. But it's utterly, utterly disgusting. And one of the interesting things, and Serco have now taken the website down, but I think it's now, you can go and view it on Archive. If you go on X, it's on the web archive. But there's a word that stood out to me, because obviously the communication in which they were talking about this, how they're going to disperse illegal immigrants into, frankly, largely deprived areas in this country, it was addressed to landlords, and they used the word, and this stuck in my mind, they used the word delighted, Michelle. They said, we're delighted to announce this.
Well, I
and
bet they
really
are,
hammered home.
Of their profit margin.
It hammered home how there are many in this country who make a great deal of money from what we call the illegal immigration industrial complex, including Serco, by the way. Those contracts are worth billions and billions of pounds, extended by this Labour government, which is evidence that they actually know deep down that there is no chance that any of these problems are going to be solved under Keir Starmer. It's appalling, and why? It's appalling in a multifaceted way, Michelle, because it's appalling because these people have obviously, the first act upon coming to this country was to break our laws, and now they're going to be given free accommodation. It's appalling because that accommodation is going to be paid for at the behest of those deprived communities into which they are going to be housed. And it's appalling because one of the most devastating things you hear on the doorstep all the time is how hard it is for people to find housing of any sort. So we know we have a massive shortage of housing in this country for people who have been born and raised here and given everything to this country, who have contributed to this country with taxes for decades. They can't get housing. Priority is being given, and people are going to the front of the queue having coming here illegally. That is why this Serco story has caught the zeitgeist right now. It is utterly infuriating, and it's exactly the sort of thing, by the way, Michelle, that Nigel will put a stop to very quickly when he's the Prime Minister.
Well, I'll come back to how in a minute. But what's your thoughts on it, Mike Tapp?
My understanding of this is that the Serco release was not right, and that there is a hangover here from the contracts that were put in place by the previous government, which, of course, can't be broken. But my personal opinion here is that, of course, housing for British people should always be first.
Yeah, but it's not going to be first, because let's just paint a basic, simple picture. You're a landlord. You have been squeezed left, right and centre in terms of how economically viable it is to be a landlord in Britain for a variety of ways, tax relief, whatever, you name it. There's loads of different reasons. Someone then knocks on your door, whether it's Serco or whatever, because there's loads of different companies that do this, by the way. Serco's only one of them. Someone now knocks on your door and says, Mike, Mr. Landlord Mike, so you know you've got that tenant in your house at the moment. It's whoever it is, this woman with 3 kids, whatever. We will give you a 5-year deal above the rent that you're already getting, no management fees, no maintenance costs, whatever. Are you telling me that as Mike, the private landlord, you're going to say, do you know what? It's all right, thanks. I'll take the lower rent, I'll pay all my maintenance costs, and I'll carry on paying my management fees as well.
And this is where, you know...
But what would you say as a landlord?
This isn't new. This, of course,
no, but what would you say as a landlord?
It's an attractive offer, isn't it? And this is where it's a hangover of what we've inherited. You know, this is not new. This isn't a Labour creation as much as people might want to.
Mike, why do you think it's such an attractive offer? Why do you think that Serco are offering 5 years at meaningfully above market rates? Why do you think they're doing that?
Well, look, it's obviously because they're more likely to get take-up on it. Of course, that's the way that money works. It talks, doesn't it? But that doesn't necessarily...
And you don't think that's going to have a massively detrimental impact to everybody living in those local areas who's struggling to get housing
One
and
of
get
the
on?
big issues we have here is, of course, we don't want to be spending £8 million per day on hotels, and the contractors that take on these contracts under the Conservatives, a part of their brief is, of course, to make it cheaper and save the taxpayer money, and that may well be a part of this. But the real way of getting past this is to stop the small boat crossings and get those numbers down.
And to deport all of those who have already come here. Those people who are going to be housed in those homes need to be deported. But that's not your stated policy, and it is ours.
It absolutely is our stated policy.
So you will deport all illegal immigrants in this country?
To deport people that shouldn't be here. If they are genuine refugees...
OK, so there are 1.2 million people...
within British values...
Mike, there are 1.2 million people here in this country who came here illegally.
We are compassionate, decent people, and genuine refugees are cared for. That is the way that this country has worked.
Do you think somebody who came here from France, Mike,
do
you think somebody who came... Sure, I totally get that. Do you think somebody who came here from France is fleeing a war zone?
No, and I've said this before. I've said this before, but... This is where things get really complex, right?
Not really. It's actually really simple, Mike. It's really simple.
So if you start deporting to the first nation that they pass through, they're all going to go to Greece, they're all going to go to Italy. And then the burden is all carried by one nation. Of course, that's not going to work. You've got to look at these problems through sensible optics so we can come up with solutions that actually work.
Mike,
it's all very well.
Does the Labour government ever ask itself why people are risking their lives to come here from France?
Well, people risk their lives to go all over Europe. And of course, some want to come here.
No, they don't.
They do.
People are not risking their lives to go between European landlocked nations.
If you're crossing from
the English Channel.
You're risking your lives to get into Europe.
Yeah, and they're risking their lives to come to the UK because the UK is a soft touch. And the people watching this programme, Mike, the people watching this programme are having to fund with their taxpayers' money.
Did you just say with a straight face, Mike Tapp, that you don't think we are a soft touch?
I think we're a compassionate country, but we're firm and we do the right thing.
We have got people, I'm telling you now, my viewers will be screaming at their screens. We have got people in 4-star hotels.
Oh, come on.
How can you say that we are not a soft touch? We are the
and apparently they're getting Gucci tracksuits as well. Come on, let's be realistic.
Are you disputing that people are in 4-star hotels?
One of your other stories a few weeks ago is that they're getting nice clothes. Are you disputing that they are in 4-star hotels? Sorry, because we've got to go. There may well be one or two.
Come off it. You see, I think you lot have not even got a remote grip on the issue.
There was a story around tracksuits the other day. Have you seen them? They're like prison tracksuits.
I couldn't care less about the tracksuits.
Well, it was a story on GBNews.
I tell you, I worry for the future of this country. Serco said that housing migrants in private rented accommodation is dramatically cheaper than in hotel accommodation. What a mess. What an absolute mess. See you tomorrow. Thanks, gents. Have a good night, everyone.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It'll feel like summer over the next couple of days with lots of sunshine, very warm for the end of April, and the winds will be light for most as well. High pressure is the reason why this chunky high dominating our weather patterns. We've had this weather front across northern Scotland. It's breaking up, but still providing some rain and drizzle across the Northern Isles through the night, but tending to clear away from the mainland of Scotland. Generally, it's dry with lengthy clear skies, a bit of a breeze picking up along the south coast. Temperatures will dip down to single figures across parts of eastern England, in particular in rural spots, but many towns and cities holding in double figures. On to Tuesday, and basically sunny and really quite warm sums it up. As I said, there will be this breeze picking up initially on the south coast, Devon and Cornwall, getting quite gusty in the southwest at times, but elsewhere the wind's fairly light. Could be some early morning mist, but generally a sunnier day compared to today for Northern Ireland and much of southern and western Scotland. Still some thick cloud across Shetland, a little bit damp and drizzly here, particularly so in the morning, but even here I suspect that rain and drizzle will tend to fizzle through the day. Lots of sunshine then elsewhere, and with the help of that sunshine getting stronger and stronger, of course, at this time of year, we'll see those temperatures ticking up. A warmer feeling day, particularly where it's sunnier for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but quite widely will be over 20 degrees Celsius, and through central and eastern parts of England, southern Wales, into the mid-20s, perhaps 25 or 26 in and around the London area. Wednesday could be warmer still. Again, a bit of a breeze blowing through the Channel, bit of cloud maybe across Shetland, but not as thick as tomorrow's. Should be a dry day pretty much everywhere, and warmer still, with light winds, feeling really warm as well for the last day of April, 26, 27. Warmer again across the south on Thursday.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A82 at Bowling is closed northbound due to a road incident. Travellers should seek alternatives and prepare for longer travel times. In Nottinghamshire, a collision on the A52 eastbound between its junction with the M1 and the A6007 has one of two lanes closed. Drivers should expect a 10-minute delay. Normal services are anticipated to resume by 7:09 this evening. In Warwickshire, congestion on the A46 northbound between the A429 and the junction with the A452 is causing a 10-minute disruption. Normal conditions are forecast to be restored by 8:11 this evening. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps four, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to GBN Tonight with me, Christopher Hope. Tonight I was speaking to the daughter of Sir David Amess after Irish rap group Kneecap called for fans to kill their local Tory MP. Sir David was, of course, tragically murdered in a targeted terror attack at his weekly surgery meeting. Who gets to vote in our elections? A report by a pressure group is doing the rounds in Westminster and it sparked outrage. It proposes that more than 4.4 million adults, including those who come to the UK illegally, should get the right to vote. And later on, I'll be joined by a legendary TV interviewer known for her conversations with Nelson Mandela and Amy Winehouse. But tonight, she'll be opening up about her final and most haunting encounter with Virginia Giuffre.